Then some alleged ties a person of my complexion and upbringing should not be commenting on. Musically, they're linked by a specific producer, Cardo.
Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and lock in, because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's go. Now, Kendrick Lamar is under fire after linking up with Playboi Carti. And trust, it's got people talking loud. This collab is turning heads for all the wrong reasons, and the internet is straight up divided. Some folks are standing by Kendrick, saying he's just doing his art, while others are raising eyebrows.
Carti's new album are weird, right? Besides seeming sort of shoehorned in, specifically his ad-libs on Mojo Jojo, what are we doing here?
Questioning why he'd team up with someone who's got some serious allegations trailing behind him. So let's break it down. Is Kendrick making a mistake here, or is he just separating the music from the man? It's not a simple yes or no, and honestly, it's got fans going wild with opinions. Just a few days ago, on March 14th, Playboi Carti dropped his long-awaited project, I Am Music, and ever since then, he's been blowing up the charts and headlines alike.
Is there any type of history and chemistry between Carti and Kendrick?
Carti's always been a mysterious type. Rarely posts, barely does interviews, but his fan base, straight up ride or die. Anytime he drops something, the rap game stops. Even folks who don't rock with him like that are paying attention right now just to see what's going on. But it ain't just the music that's making noise. It's that crazy feature list on I Am Music that's got everybody watching like hawks. We're talking Travis Scott, The Weeknd, Future, and Young Thug, heavyweights in the game. But even with that stacked lineup, the feature everyone's locked in on is Kendrick Lamar. And for good reason. Kendrick pops up on 3 tracks on Carti's album, which is wild because these two artists come from completely different corners of the rap universe. Nobody saw this crossover coming, but the real storm ain't just about the music, it's the backlash that's got the internet in flames. If you've been scrolling through X, what used to be Twitter, then you already know. Kendrick's getting called out hard for teaming up with Carti. Folks aren't just debating the songs, they're going in on Kendrick's character. People are saying things like Kendrick should have known better, and now his morals are being put under a microscope. Why? Because Playboi Carti's got some serious accusations tied to his name, and fans aren't letting it slide. For those who might not be fully up to speed, I'm actually working on a full video breaking all that down, so definitely stay tuned. That one's dropping real soon. But just to give you a quick breakdown, a few years ago, rapper Iggy Azalea, who shares a child with Carti, called him out publicly, accusing him of being a deadbeat dad, saying he wasn't stepping up as a father. And then it got way more serious. In February 2023, Carti was arrested in Georgia after allegedly choking his pregnant girlfriend during a heated argument over a paternity test. That's not just drama. Those are major red flags. And now Kendrick's name is being dragged into it just for jumping on a few tracks. Even with all those serious allegations floating around, Playboi Carti still stands tall as one of the biggest names in rap right now. He's got one of the most intense and loyal fan bases in the game, no question. And it's not just the fans. He's been co-signed by some of the top names in music, but that crazy success, it's clashing hard with his past, and people are starting to look at him real sideways. That's exactly why Kendrick's choice to jump on this project is blowing up into a full-blown controversy. Now let's push Carti to the side for a second. The spotlight's on Kendrick right now, and not just because he's on the album. It's because for years, Kendrick has carried this image of being one of the few rappers who stands firm on his principles. Fans always look to him as the one who rapped with purpose, with depth, with intention. That's what makes this collab hit so differently. But here's where it gets complicated. Kendrick never claimed to be some flawless role model. Matter of fact, he straight up said it on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, especially in the track Savior with Baby Keem. That moment where he raps, "The cat is out the bag. I am not your savior. I find it just as difficult to love thy neighbors." That was him saying loud and clear, "Don't put me on a pedestal." But even with that honesty, people still expect more from him. So now the big question is, does being human excuse working with someone like Carti? Online, folks are saying nope. Some takes are going viral as we speak, with people straight up calling Kendrick out for making this move. One tweet that's been making major waves, over 2.3 million views, didn't hold back at all. It said straight up, calling a dude a deadbeat for 12 months and then collabing with the #1 deadbeat in hip-hop is hilarious. And when they say #1 deadbeat, yeah, they're talking about Carti. This is exactly why Kendrick's catching so much heat. It all loops back to that brutal diss track in his beef with Drake, Meet the Grams. That record was pure venom. probably the harshest jab in their whole back and forth. Kendrick didn't just throw bars, he dug deep. He came for Drake's morals and fatherhood. In that verse, Kendrick paints a picture of a father who's completely disconnected from his kid. He raps, "Dear baby girl, I'm sorry that your father not active inside your world. He don't commit to much but his music, yeah, that's for sure." And then he seals it with, "Fitting deadbeat that should never say more life." He used Drake's own project title as a weapon. It was a bold move and it hit hard. Fans applauded Kendrick for calling Drake out on something so personal. But now, that same Kendrick is working side by side with Playboi Carti, an artist who's got actual public accusations of being an absent father. And the wild part, in Carti's case, there's way more weight behind the claims. Iggy Azalea has been vocal for years about his lack of involvement, so people are looking at Kendrick like, how are you gonna blast Drake for allegedly being a deadbeat, then turn around and collab with someone who's got his own serious issues as a dad? The internet is not letting that slide. Iggy Azalea, the mother of Carti's child, has been loud about her issues with him, and her story hasn't exactly stayed consistent. At one point, she did walk back her deadbeat claims, but not for long. She circled right back and doubled down again, and again. And we're not just talking about him being absent. Iggy accused Carti of skipping their son's birth and to fly out to Philly and play video games with Lil Uzi Vert instead. Yeah, you read that right. Missed the birth to game with Uzi. That's one of the wildest accusations in the whole mess. Imagine your child being born and you choose a controller over the delivery room. And that's what she's saying happened. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. Drop a subscribe. Now, whether that story's true or not is still up for debate. Iggy's claims have been blasted all over the internet, and even though there's no solid proof, a lot of people already believe it's facts. Public opinion has kind of run with it. So now we're left wondering, was Iggy telling the truth, or was it just heat of the moment drama? I'll be diving way deeper into that in an upcoming video, breaking everything down with full context, so keep your eyes peeled for that drop. But let's bring it back to Kendrick. His feud with Drake was personal, yeah, not some broad statement on fatherhood. But still, given how Kendrick's always been seen as the conscious rapper, the man with values, it's easy to see why people feel betrayed. To many fans, it looks like he flipped the script, calling out one rapper for being a bad dad, only to turn around and collaborate with another one who's been accused of doing the same thing. This actually isn't the first time Kendrick Lamar has raised eyebrows for co-signing an artist with a controversial past. Whether through lyrics or collaborations, he's made bold choices, and one of the biggest came back in 2022. After a 5-year break from the game, Kendrick returned with Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and people were shocked to see Florida rapper Kodak Black featured on the project. The moment that album dropped, fans were split. Kodak's appearance set off a huge wave of backlash, and Kendrick caught heat for it fast. I even covered it back then because people were seriously questioning why someone like Kendrick, who's always been seen as intentional and conscious with his message, would align himself with an artist who's been tied to such serious allegations. Now fast forward to this Playboi Carti situation, and fans are once again calling Kendrick out for what they see as a pattern. The question keeps coming up, is Kendrick turning a blind eye to these accusations just for the sake of music? And if you're not familiar with Kodak's past, here's why it caused such a stir. Back in 2016, a teenage girl came forward accusing him of assaulting her in a hotel room after one of his shows in Florence, South Carolina. Investigators said she claimed he bit her neck and chest and forced himself on her, even after she told him to stop. She reported it later to a school nurse, who then alerted the authorities. That story made headlines everywhere and still hangs over Kodak's name today. So when Kendrick brought him into the fold, it wasn't just about music anymore. It became a moral conversation, just like it is now with Carti. Kodak Black was originally hit with a rape charge, but in April 2021, he struck a plea deal and ended up pleading guilty to first-degree assault instead. That outcome? It sparked outrage. A lot of people felt like Kodak got off way too easy, especially considering the seriousness of the original accusation and the fact that it involved a minor. In the eyes of many, the plea deal felt like a slap on the wrist. But despite all that, Kodak kept it moving. He stayed in the industry, dropped new music, and kept his fan base strong. Then, over a year later, Kendrick Lamar dropped Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers and chose to feature Kodak on it. That move instantly reignited the controversy. Fans lit up social media, calling Kendrick out for attaching his name to someone with that kind of history. And this wasn't the first time he'd made a questionable call like that either. Aside from supporting Kodak, Kendrick also publicly backed XXXTentacion back in 2017. XXXTentacion, known to many as Triple X, was a rising star in the rap world. His life was tragically cut short in 2018 when he was stalked and murdered outside a motorcycle shop, shortly after leaving a bank. But even with his success, his legacy is heavily clouded by disturbing allegations made against him. His ex-girlfriend Geneva came forward accusing him of serious abuse, claims that painted a very dark picture. And despite all that controversy, Kendrick still showed him support during his lifetime. Once again, fans were split. Was it about the art, or was Kendrick crossing the line by aligning with artists who had real-life accusations hanging over them? Now let's rewind to 2017, right after XXXTentacion dropped his emotional, genre-bending album 17. Out of nowhere, Kendrick Lamar jumped on Twitter and gave it a major cosign. He didn't just say he liked it, he publicly promoted the project, giving X a rare and powerful stamp of approval. But it didn't stop there. Behind the scenes, Kendrick's team reportedly took it even further, reaching out directly to some of the highest-ranking execs at Spotify. That includes CEO Daniel Ek and the platform's head of artist relations. Why? To push back against a brand new policy Spotify had just launched, their Hate Content and Hateful Conduct Initiative. This policy, which kicked in on May 10, 2018, was supposed to stop promoting music from artists accused of serious misconduct. Spotify started by removing R. Kelly from their editorial and algorithmic playlists, though his music was still available on the app. But XXXTentacion's name was also flagged, and Kendrick's camp wasn't having it. They pushed to make sure X's music didn't get buried, despite the accusations swirling around him. Another moment where Kendrick backed an artist with controversy tied to their name. And once again, fans were left debating where the line really is between support and silence. But R. Kelly wasn't the only artist hit by Spotify's hateful conduct policy. XXXTentacion got caught up in it too. And that's when Kendrick's team really stepped in. According to reports, they warned Spotify directly, if you remove X from your playlist, we'll pull Kendrick's music off the platform entirely. That's how far they were willing to go. And that bold move, it didn't go unnoticed, but it also didn't come without backlash. Over the years, this moment has resurfaced again and again, with critics pointing fingers and saying Kendrick doesn't always live up to the morals he raps about. It's a tough look, especially when so much of his legacy is tied to him being a conscious artist, someone fans expect to take a higher road. But here's the raw truth. Kendrick Lamar is not a saint. He's not some untouchable moral figure floating above the industry, handing down wisdom from the clouds. Nah, he's a real person, with real emotions, and sometimes real bias, especially when it comes to people he's got issues with, like Drake. And let me be crystal clear, this isn't some excuse under that whole "he's not your savior" line he rapped on Mr. Morale. It's the opposite. Kendrick shouldn't keep getting placed on a pedestal. He's not perfect, he's not flawless, he's just a man with powerful influence, deep-rooted opinions, and a complicated track record that fans are finally starting to question out loud. I've always kept it real about where I stand with Kendrick Lamar. I've been rocking with him way before the world caught on in 2011, back when only the die-hard fans knew what he was building. I've always given him his flowers, always recognized the impact he's had on the game. But let me be clear, that doesn't mean he's above criticism, not even close. And I say that as someone who genuinely respects Kendrick's artistry. I do mess with his music heavy, no doubt, but I'm also not afraid to point out the other side, the stuff that don't sit right. Because at the end of the day, he's human like all of us. He's got his flaws, his blind spots, and yes, his biases. One thing I do respect, Kendrick doesn't pretend to be perfect. In his music, he's shown us the messy parts of himself, the insecurities, the pride, the contradictions. He's not trying to come off squeaky clean, and that honesty is rare in this industry. That said, Kendrick still doesn't get hit with the same level of criticism as other artists, and that's mostly because he's built up this image of being super authentic. And truth be told, he hasn't done anything in his personal life that crosses the kind of lines that make people completely turn away from him. But that doesn't mean we can't question his choices. It's okay to challenge him, especially when the moves he makes don't align with the message people expect from him. Kendrick Lamar has never been accused of harming women or children. That's just not who he is. No scandals, no arrests, nothing like that on his name. The only time anything close even came up was during Drake's diss track Family Matters, where he threw out an unverified claim that Kendrick put hands on his partner. But let's be real, there's zero proof behind that. It felt more like a shot in the dark than a real accusation. Outside of that, Kendrick has always been seen as a family man, a role model, not just to his own kids and loved ones, but to a whole generation of young people watching him from the outside. His image has stayed solid, grounded, and respectable in a world where a lot of artists fall off track. But here's what sets Kendrick apart. He's never claimed to be squeaky clean. For anyone who's really listened to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, you already know, Kendrick laid his soul bare. He opened up about the darker corners of himself, the guilt, the mistakes, the inner conflict. On Worldwide Steppers, he raps about sleeping with a white woman overseas after his partner left. Next time I effed a white girl out in Copenhagen. Then on Mother I Sober, one of his most vulnerable tracks ever, he confesses, intoxicated. There's a lustful nature that I failed to mention, insecurities that I project, sleeping with other women, Whitney's hurt, the pure soul I know, I found her in the kitchen. And on United in Grief, he shares another emotional chapter, meeting a woman in Chicago, building a deep connection, then using intimacy as a way to cope with pain. Kendrick's never hidden the flaws, he puts them in the music for the world to hear, raw and unfiltered. Kendrick has always kept it raw in his music, laying out the sides of himself he's not proud of. And honestly, that kind of honesty is rare. I respect it. It takes guts to air out your own flaws in front of the whole world, and Kendrick's done that time and time again. But when it comes to this new collab with Playboi Carti, it feels like Kendrick's choosing the music over the morals. It looks like he's prioritizing the creative chemistry and industry strategy while brushing off the heavy controversy surrounding Carti as a person. And let's not forget, this is still the music industry. No matter how high up an artist climbs, connections matter. Even someone as established as Kendrick needs to stay tapped into different fan bases. And Carti's reach is powerful. He hits corners of culture Kendrick doesn't always connect with, especially with younger hyper-online audiences. So teaming up with him, it helps keep Kendrick relevant to that crowd. If we're gonna go after Drake for being a so-called deadbeat, if we're gonna label him as the guy who neglected his child, then how is Playboi Carti any different? The accusations around him have weight too, and yet Kendrick gave him the green light. Whether those claims are true or not isn't even the core issue anymore. This isn't really about Drake, and it's not just about Carti either. It's about Kendrick, and whether he truly stands on the principles that he's built his image around. That's the part fans are struggling to reconcile right now. Situations like this, honestly, they matter a lot, because they force people to take a step back and really look past the polished image Kendrick has built over the years. That whole picture-perfect, morally untouchable version of him is just not the full story. He's not some flawless icon. He's a regular guy, just like the rest of us. One of the biggest things with Kendrick and how the world sees him is that he's done an incredible job presenting himself as someone who stayed grounded, someone who's never lost his soul, no matter how big the fame got. And to be fair, that might still be true to an extent. But when you look at situations like this collab with Playboi Carti, it becomes clear Kendrick isn't above criticism, and he's not immune to making questionable choices. The real issue is that people have placed him so high on a pedestal, they can't even recognize his flaws. It's like they've convinced themselves he can do no wrong. But Kendrick's a human being, and like all of us, he's got his own biases, his own ways of justifying decisions, even when they don't sit right with everyone else. What makes it even more complex is that Kendrick knows this. He's smart, self-aware, and deeply introspective. He's not out here clueless about how the world views him. He knows exactly what kind of image he holds. And maybe, just maybe, he's leaned into that power more than people realize. So now that Kendrick's getting hit with this wave of criticism, I wouldn't be surprised if he's sitting back thinking, oh, so y'all really thought I was that guy. Like he's looking at all the backlash and quietly saying, you thought I was holier than thou? Nah, I've been telling y'all I'm just a flawed human from the jump. It's almost like he's trying to make a statement that people have built up an image of him that he never fully agreed with. Folks put him on this moral pedestal, saw him as some righteous figure who stood above the noise. But Kendrick, he's not trying to play God. He's just a man, complex, imperfect, and navigating his path just like anyone else. Now, when it comes to this specific situation with Carti, can we really act like it's not hypocritical? From where I stand, yeah, it absolutely is. And that's not me trying to cancel Kendrick or throw shade. That's just being real. It's totally fair for people to look at Kendrick's actions and ask the hard question, is he really who he says he is? Because at the end of the day, we're all judged by our actions, not just our words. And when your moves start clashing with the morals you preach, people are gonna talk. They're gonna form opinions. And honestly, they've got every right to. So now I gotta ask, what do you think about this Kendrick situation? Do you feel like he's being hypocritical for teaming up with Playboi Carti after calling Drake out for being a so-called deadbeat? Or do you think it's just business and Kendrick's getting unfair heat? I really want to hear what y'all think. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Make sure to smash that like button. Share this video if it had you thinking. And of course, subscribe for more deep dives and breakdowns just like this one. Turn on those post notifications too so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, I've got more fire on the way. Catch y'all in the next video.